Hey guys, welcome to this week's edition of Mogul Live. Just as we get started, really excited to bring you Asif Akbar. I'm going to play you in the Mogul intro so you can get a bit of a feel of what to expect. We'll have Asif in the chat in the next 2 or 3 minutes, so get ready for a great episode of Mogul Live. Welcome everyone to another great interview with Mogul Live coming up today. Our guest, Asif Akbar, we're going to talk to him. You may have seen his films. Thomas, hey Joanna, good to see you. Good to see Mary. Nick's also in the chat. We're going to have Asif in the chat very, very soon. But a really great time to ask questions as well. Asif, very well-known director, producer, writer. For anyone that's seen Astro, he's just... we can ask him about this as well. He's just completing a Mickey Rourke film called The Commando. Just finished a Jon Lovitz film as well, which is a comedy. So we can ask him about that as well. And also asking about MR9. MR9 in the showcase for Mogul. Great action film, which he will be directing coming up. So any actors out there as well, even just asking tips about what to do in the audition. Asif, I can see you've just joined in the chat. Bear with me 2 seconds. I'm just going to give everyone just a little bit of an intro about yourself. Just quickly, I'm going to throw up some assets. I mentioned this is the Mickey Rourke film. We can talk to Asif about the Commando. Looks really, really good. Really great film. Also, we've got here, let's see what other assets we've got. Let's have a look. This is a nice picture of Jon Lovitz. Asif, I will be asking you about this picture as well with Jon Lovitz. I'm assuming this is on the set. Another film that you would have seen, this one, Astro. Really great film. Really excited to talk as well a little bit about the process of making it. And then, of course, with MR9 as well. So with that, let's see if we can connect Asif into the chat right now. Danny, great to see you joining us in the chat. Tim, I saw you come in earlier as well. Andrew, Michael, VB as well. Just saw you jumped in as well. So great to see all you guys. Let's see if we can get well. Again, you can ask him any question that you like. We're really thrilled. Writer, projector, producer, Asif Akbar coming in. Asif, good to see you.
Hi, James.
How are you?
Thank you for having me. Good to see you.
It's an absolute pleasure to have you in the chat as well. Where have we got you live from?
I'm actually in Las Vegas right now.
Oh, working or pleasure?
No, I live here. I moved here about a year ago from LA, so this is my new home.
Oh, fantastic, fantastic. What projects are you working on at the moment?
Right now, I'm just diving into developing and pre-production of MR9, and just finished up producing a action horror film with Cowboy Cerrone, and just trying to focus on MR9 because that's a pretty big project for me coming up that I'm excited about and very honored to be a part of.
Yeah, we're really excited to hear more about that. We've got a great group coming into the chat as well. Nightly Crypto, Andrew, I saw you jumped in as well. What stage is good to see you, Nightly Crypto? Hello. At what stage is MR9 up to at the moment?
Right now, we just finalized the lead casting, and I've been doing some rewrites, and we just finalized some of the locations. We're going into now, finalizing certain dates because it is an international project. We're going to be shooting overseas and quite a few days. So there's a lot of planning, and with COVID right now, we have to take extra precautions to make sure it's done safely, as safety is our #1 priority. And at the same time, we want to make a good quality film in an international level that is going to capture a global audience with this new, hopefully a new franchise that is in the making.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I got a little bit of an inside look. I think it looks really cool.
Thank you. Yeah, we're very excited about it. The script has come a long way over the last 3, 4 years that we've been working on it, and we're excited to be able to give it that proper time that it deserves. Usually indie films don't get much pre-production time, so we're lucky to be having enough time to make sure we give it our best.
Yeah. And I mean, a couple of questions coming in. I'll quickly ask this one, the crypto. I really liked MR9 in the showcase. Can you tell us about the series of books and how you guys came to find the series?
Sure. So MR9 is basically a code name for a character named Masood Rana that originated in Bangladesh, which used to be East Pakistan, back in 1964 was when the first book was published. And this film that we're making is an adaptation of that first original book in the series. And at that time, it was inspired from the classic popular James Bond series that started a few years earlier. And, it gave the Eastern audiences, especially in South Asia, a figure to look up to and also explore the world with. It was a hero like James Bond, secret agent going on missions overseas in different exotic locations on great adventures and saving the world. So at that time, it was a different world. You didn't have the internet or movies or access to entertainment like we do today. So the books took off. It was really popular with the younger audience, high school and college students, and it started attracting people of all ages, from 13 years old to, grandparents at 70, 80 years old. People were really interested in this new style of novels in that part of the region. So now, fast forward to modern day, they have over 500 books in the series. It's one of the longest running book series in any franchise.
That's huge.
And
Yeah.
yeah, and so I actually, me originally being from Bangladesh, I had uncles and even my own dad. They were very familiar with the books. So as I was growing up, I've always kind of heard about it, and I grew up in the Western culture and watching Hollywood films. And to me, Rambo and James Bond, I mean, those were like the heroes I grew up watching on screen. But at the same time, I would be listening to like my uncles talk about Masood Rana or MR9 and this series of books that they were reading. And so I would hear the stories from them. And so in my head, I would have the image of Rambo or like, Pierce Brosnan or Sean Connery as James Bond. And I used to think it was really cool. So, I kind of grew up visualizing some of these stories. And, about a few years ago, as I was, uh, promoting my film Astro at the Cannes Film Festival, I ran into a producer from Bangladesh with Jazz Multimedia, the owner of Jazz. It's a distribution and production company out of Bangladesh, one of the biggest actually. And the owner, Abdul Aziz, approached me at that time with wanting to make a film that would be like a co-production between Bangladesh and Hollywood. And at that time, we didn't really know what that project would be. And this was at the Cannes Film Festival in 2018, in May. Uh, and a couple months later, we stayed in touch. We were talking about different projects. A couple months later, he had acquired the rights for MR9 to make 3 films based on the first 3 original books in the series from the original writer, Qazi Anwar Hussain. That's the writer, and right now, he's an older man in his late 80s, um, and he wants to see his legacy kind of continue on the screen. So it was very exciting for us to acquire the rights at that time, and Jazz and I both discussed and agreed on making this a Hollywood film with an international cast up to that standard, so we can introduce this new franchise to a Western and global market with a new audience. It has a huge fan base in Bangladesh and India and that part of the world, but it hasn't really been introduced, to a global audience in an action film. And there was actually one film based on the character. It's titled Masud Rana. It was made back in 1974, and I believe it was a co-production between India and Bangladesh, and it was a hit film at the time. But I'm not really entirely sure why, Mr. Hossein, the original writer, why he hasn't given the rights since then. But we were honored and lucky to, get the rights from him in 2018, and he trusted us to, carry on his legacy on the screen.
I got to be honest with you. There's about probably 5 or 6 questions coming to me straight away, and I saw some questions building up in the chat as well. So I'm gonna Nightly Crypto. This is amazing. I got your comment there. I'm gonna see if I can circle back to some of the questions. Okay, here's the first one. How does someone just make a movie about a book? Does Bungalow own the IP or rights to the film, or is the author involved in the movie somehow?
So it does go through a few different chain of titles in the process. Originally, Jazz Multimedia had acquired the rights from the original writer to be able to adapt 3 of the books, the original 3 titles in the series, into a feature film. And so when I came on board, Jazz actually hired me to come on and adapt the story and write the screenplay, which I did. I did the first draft, and then since then we've had multiple drafts. We've had a couple other different writers come in, and we worked together to collaborate and make sure we were, doing it properly, since it is an adaptation and there's 500 plus books in the series. So there had to be a lot of research that went on to making sure we, handled the characters and the story properly. And I actually had some creative licensing myself in the rights. I did have the ability to be able to create some of my own characters and story points. So, the screenplay isn't 100% based on the original book. It has the main theme and the storyline, but at that time it was a different world. It was 1964 South Asia in the book, and now we made it contemporary. We made it more global. So there were naturally some different characters we had to introduce and take the licensing to be able to create. So it's been a collaborative effort along the way. We had a team in Bangladesh and a team of researchers here to make it like that ultimate global action film, and we had the freedom to do a lot of that, which I'm thankful for. And so it's a process, and every process is different. When you get the rights to someone's life story, or when you get the rights to a books, every deal is different. Every situation, based on the kind of deal you make, it can be different. For us, it's been a process. The first rights were acquired in Bangladesh. Then I came on board. Then we connected both the Hollywood side and the Bangladesh side. And right now, the Hollywood producers at Banglo, they're in charge of headlining the production and getting it made.
And in good hands as well. I mean, we were only talking last week with Thomas Keone and Bin. Those guys definitely know how to handle action as well.
And the environment we work in, it's like a film family, and you're right, it's in amazing hands, and I couldn't have been more proud of the team that we have working on this.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to dive into another question that came up before as well, which is, can you reveal any of the cast at this particular point in time, or is that still under wraps?
It's interesting because, there's been a lot of rumors, news, and all kinds of announcements that's been going on online, because it's been a hyped up project over the last couple of years. And there's been fan-made trailers and all kinds of videos and a lot of casting that's been happening. Uh, but right now, where we are with it, part of our marketing plan of it is to reveal certain elements of the film with a team of publicists and a process where we keep the hype going and have official announcements. So we do have a cast in place, but at this time I can't reveal it because we have to have some exclusive releases on those announcements when the time is right. But it is coming in the near future, so it'll be revealed appropriately.
Sure, sure. Well, if there's any inside information you can give us, I know everybody in the chat would love to learn as much as they could. Somos 52.
I can
Somos.
say this: we will be shooting overseas, and in some very nice and exotic locations that haven't been really showcased much on screen. And we'll have quite a few of actors and crew going from LA, overseas to Bangladesh, and we'll be filming on locations and at some exciting places that I think will be characters themselves.
Excited to see, very excited to see. Somos 528 says, this is a good question, Somos. How do you make the movie more global but still true to the stories?
Well, with this particular story and film, the story has always kind of been global, of that international secret spy, like James Bond. That character has always had a global appeal. Guys always kind of wanted to be like James Bond, and women wanted to be with a guy like James Bond, throughout, almost every culture and society. So for the series to originate from the inspirations of James Bond and those kinds of films, it was already kind of set up for it. We just had to make sure we had certain characters and actors that appealed to the global audience, and to make the story more contemporary and be able to have characters that people can relate to from all walks of life. And for us, we are more focused on making a good quality action film that'll be a popcorn entertainment flick. And right now I think with the technology and the global filmmaking style that's in place, especially with action films, as long as you have a simple story and good action, good characters, I think we can achieve it. You see a lot of Southeast Asian action films that are coming out over the last decade, I would say, from China, Thailand, Korea, Indonesia. There's been a tremendous amount of quality action film, even from Bollywood, that have their own styles, but then they've been blending a lot of the different martial arts and action styles from the Western films. And even John Wick, they take ideas and choreography and action from certain Asian films. So there's been a lot of crossbreeding going on with commercial films globally. And so we're just pretty much trying to make another film within that vein of keeping it current within blending multiple different styles. And even a lot of the characters that we have in the film, they all have their own different style of fighting, their own styles of fashion, and it's just like a blend of different people from different parts of the world that I think
that's the great thing, because you kind of you're filling the flavors up. You're not just keeping it one flavor of ice cream.
Exactly. And even James Bond, that's the same pattern. These movies like James Bond or Mission Impossible, Bourne Identity, they follow this formula where you go to exotic locations, you have good-looking people, you have the stereotypical bad guy, and this plot of saving the world from these dangerous bad people. So it's kind of like that 101 formula of giving that kind of flavor to the audience, but we're just
Yeah.
kind of amping it up to also at the same time giving the audience something different. So that's something, we'll see with time.
We're really excited to see the progress. So I'm just going to quickly circle back to a couple more questions that have quickly come in. The first one is, when did you learn about Mogul?
Mogul, I learned about within this year, a few months ago. I heard about uh, this platform dealing with blockchain and crypto and film financing that was developing, and I thought it was very interesting because we're at a time in this industry where every 6 months it's changing, or even faster, to where we have to adapt with different models, financing, even production to distribution. We're in a completely different time in this industry where we really have to adapt, and the old school Hollywood way just does not exist anymore. And people that are not able to keep up and adapt to the new ways are the ones that are falling behind. And people that can adapt are actually being able to find creative ways to getting films financed and made, and even with distribution. It's actually harder than ever, but at the same time, if you follow the right formula and you can adapt to new ways that work, you'll have success. And I feel like Mogul, from what I've seen so far, is ahead of the game in setting up something that will become the new norm in the future. But Mogul is going to be a pioneer in it, so I'm excited to see where it goes and to work with Mogul and be a part of this journey.
Yeah, I mean, I think we had a great turnout in the Mogul Showcase. Anyone that's just joined us, Asif Akbar is our guest, so you can ask any questions. Samos, I saw another great questions come up. I'll get back to yours in a moment. But again, I think what you sort of mentioned before about how things have changed, the landscape's changed. I think COVID, obviously, with a lot of the people we've been speaking to, including the bungalow guys, have said, before COVID and after COVID, there's a lot of changes that'll be different going forward. Distribution is one of them. But just quickly circling back to Samos, your question, who is your boss villain? This would be an MR9, or we can't sort of give too many details.
Yeah, I cannot say. We do have him cast, but I cannot expose that yet. Again, because we have to properly give it that exclusive announcement. But I can say there's more than one. There's going to be multiple bad guys in this, and they're all pretty exciting characters. And one character, I can reveal one, that I was kind of inspired from the character Jaws from the James Bond films, where I wanted a larger than life type of a character that was memorable, like the guy that we saw play Jaws. Growing up, I used to love James Bond, and sometimes, I would want to see Jaws come back in the next sequel rather than any other characters. So I wanted to have a character similar to that, which I wrote in the film. And I was thinking about this particular actor and wrestler. I can say that he is an ex-WWE champion and Hall of Famer. And in my head, I was thinking about this wrestler to play this character. And after I wrote the script, a few months later, I just decided to reach out to him and offer him the part. And I told him, hey, I wrote this part for you, thinking of you and in my vision. And we were able to cast him. And him and I have since become good friends. And he's part of the film. And it was kind of like part of my dream casting of people I originally wanted. So that was really cool.
You're spot on about the character of Jaws in James Bond, because sometimes the villains become more memorable.
Right.
And like you said, you want him back for the next one. So in this case, bringing a character like that in. Samos, congratulations, Pratt, and good luck, Akbar. Love Jaws and the great one. Thank you very much, Samos.
Yes, yeah. It was one of those films. I played, multiple roles in getting it made, and we've actually written a novel based on the film as well. Myself and my writing partner Bernard, and that was a film that I had a lot of fun making, but at the same time it was educational for me because I blended a lot of different elements to tell kind of an original story that I based off of different beliefs within the UFO community. And it was exciting because I also was able to film it in Roswell, New Mexico, the UFO capital of the world. Um, and it was educational all around. I feel like I became a better filmmaker, better producer, director, and even like that journey that I took. It took a few years to get that film made, and then after that, it had some complications that we overcame as a team. So there were a lot of lessons that we all had learned from that film, and it's still to this date. I would say one of my most memorable experiences, on and off set, and then watching the movie back now, I can see where I've made mistakes, where I've learned from, and how far I've come from that. It was a very ambitious project, for its time and for the resources we had to make it with. But overall, at the end of the day, I'm very proud of it.
Yeah, and I think the thing there as well is, I mean, I would classify it like from when I watched it as like a sci-fi with thriller and action in it as well. Um,
Right.
you know, that is itself like sci-fi films, with the CGI and everything that comes with it. It's a lot harder than, like a two-handed drama where you can kind of get away with less actors. So I thought it was great. Eric, it's great to see you back in the chat as well. Thomas as well. I saw you jumped in the chat earlier. Some of the people I've recognized from earlier on. Samos has just written a comment. We need more global sci-fi movies too. Yes, absolutely. Now I want to ask you. I don't know whether you saw it, but I put up a photo at the beginning of the kind of intro. You with John Lovitz.
Oh yes, yeah.
Yeah,
That
I'd
was a
love
really
just
fun
for our
project, actually.
Yeah, I'd love for our audience just to get an idea about what that photo was. And obviously that was on set of a film, but can you talk a little bit about the photo on the film you did?
Yeah, that was actually at ADR studio when we were recording John Lovitz's voice uh, as the main character Ace, the horse Ace. He's a talking horse, and John Lovitz is the voice of Ace, which was amazing. It was great working with him, and he was just the nicest guy, and he comes in with his dog Jerry in the studio just like a normal day, and it was during the pandemic, so it was limited. It was just me and John Lovitz and the ADR engineer, and we had a blast. He gave me a few different options, and I said that's how we want it, and we did it. It was a very fast session. Went through it without any hiccups, and it was just a lot of fun. I think we spent more time just talking about random stuff than we actually recorded. But the whole thing was done in like 3 hours, and then we spent another couple hours just BSing around. Just the funniest guy, but I had a blast, and hopefully we'll work together again soon. And that film, Ace and the Christmas Miracle, I believe will be releasing this Christmas, and so look out for that. But that was a really fun project.
Yeah, and for anyone that's kind of asking what is that particular film, can you give us kind of the log line for that when it comes out?
Yeah, it's basically a kid's talking horse Christmas film that takes place in Temecula, wine country in Southern California. where these two guys that are down on their luck in life, they get entangled in horse race gambling, and they get in trouble with the mob, and they come across this talking horse that gives them advice on betting on the race horses, and they start winning. So it's like a lucky horse, and the horse is owned by this woman and her children that get entangled in that whole mess. And so it's like a fun little adventure they go through, and you learn, you know, why it's not good to be, gambling and all that kind of stuff. But it's a
Oh,
fun,
excellent.
fun little movie, and
Yeah. So, and that
it's
comes
finished at
out
this
that
time.
that comes out Christmas time this year.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, great. We'll look out for that one. Another project that I kind of put up there, which I think, questions may come in, working with Mickey Rourke on the Commando. Now, where is that film up to? And, again, guys, you can look up Asif as IMDb while we're talking if you want to kind of get a snapshot of any of the films he's directed or produced. But the Commando, can we talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, The Commando is a action thriller that I shot last year, about a year ago, coming up last October, and that stars Mickey Rourke, Michael Jai White, Cowboy Cerrone, Jeff Fahey. So we had a great cast. It is currently, I believe, in the hands of the distributors. It's coming out by a studio. I can't really disclose that yet as well, because they're going to have announcements coming up. But it is finished and it's been delivered. I was told it's going to be coming out closer to the end of the year with a theatrical and video on demand and all that stuff. But it will be getting a theatrical release, which is pretty exciting in this climate. So, hopefully it does well. But that was another film that we shot during the pandemic, and we had to follow certain protocols. It was SAG film, and the production was decent sized. We shot it in New Mexico, and the cast and crew were just amazing to work with. We actually shot the film out in 12 days.
I gotta ask you, like, a couple of the names that you've mentioned, the actors that are on there. There's some experience on set, put it that way. I mean, is there any memorable stories working with those actors that you want to share?
Um, yeah, there actually it was really nice to see all those different actors, of different ages and different eras, also coming together and just having a great time. I think it was one of those sets where it didn't feel like we were working at sometimes, where these actors were just so friendly, especially Mickey Rourke. He was just attracting everyone in a very positive way. People were kind of intimidated at first, thinking, "Oh, Mickey Rourke, the great bad boy of Hollywood," and he is a little intimidating, thinking maybe he's going to be rough with you or whatnot. But he was super nice. He brought on some guests, friends of his that came on, and they were super cool. We had Cowboy Cerrone, who is also friends with Mickey, and he's a friend of mine. So we had a good time, and just the cast and crew got along so well to where we were having a blast. And there were some, tense moment when we were shooting action, and you have actors and legends like Michael Jai White, who's a great martial artist, and we had a few different fight scenes that had to be well choreographed and well planned out. So it was a lot of hard work in a short amount of time, but at the same time, I think everyone had a great attitude to be able to work together and make something really cool in a short amount of time. That was our biggest, I think, hurdle on that project was not having the proper time or enough time as you normally would, because of it being during COVID, and making an action film, is a lot more challenging than just making your typical drama or, whatnot. But the fact that we were all able to come together and help each other out to make sure, we were making our days we had some fun moments there where we had some. There's one moment I can share in particular to answer your question. Is it was the last day, and because of the tight schedule, that was a day we had to go over overtime shooting, and we ended up shooting, I believe, like 18 pages with two different fight scenes.
18 pages in one day.
18 pages in one day of dialogue, plus two fight scenes that were choreographed, all within. It ended up being an 18-hour day, and I remember like around the 16th hour, everyone's tired, and we're shooting part of the end fight, and Michael Jai White and I'm watching the monitor. We just did a take of one of the actors and stunt guys, Cord Newman, who's another good friend of mine. It was a scene where he just went through a table. Michael Jai White flipped him over and he crashed through a table. He gets killed. Little spoiler alert. Um, then Gianni Capaldi, another good friend of mine, actor, his character comes through the door and he sees Cord laying on the ground, his body, dead body. And so we did multiple takes of it, and we're doing a playback, and we're watching, and Michael and I were watching the monitor, and all of a sudden I see something odd, and no one else catches it. I'm like, wait a minute, that looks funny. Can you go back? And we rewind back to when we see Cord's body on the floor, and he's just, laying there with his both hands on his chest, like, he's passed out in great comfort, like completely off his continuity, just, sleeping. And I'm like, wait a minute, why is he just sleeping? He's supposed to be dead. And and Michael just cracks up, like he laughed so hard he fell to the ground. And I think it was just, part of us all just being so tired, but at the same time, we were able to have a laugh. And then we told Cord, and he's like, what do you mean? And then we showed him the playback, and he was, everyone was just hysterical. But it was fun, nobody got mad that, we're going overtime, and everyone wanted to get it done and have fun with it. So we had a lot of moments like that.
I got to give you credit. I mean, 18 pages plus two fight scenes on the last day when everyone's very tired anyway from probably the shoot. That's really impressive. I'm looking out to see that film as well. I showed a quick kind of asset to the group. Great to see you, the real Adrian Ho, back in. Isa Deslum. I hope I've got that right. Also, welcome into the group chat. But the thing is, as well, with a film like that, is I think everyone needs to buy in for it to kind of work. Because if it's a 12-day shoot and there's a lot of, like you said, fight scenes, what is, from a director's point of view, how do you get the best out of, say, a Mickey Rourke? What is your advice from a director's point of view?
That's actually a really good question, because I feel like you have to approach every actor differently based on their personality and also their work ethic and their style of working. Every actor, just like every director, we all have our own style that we feel comfortable working in, and a lot of times we share that style. I mean, it's very common to find other directors that you can relate to that have a similar style, or you guys talk the same language, but then there's some that have a completely different approach on how they work. For me, I always go off of the character or the actor's personality, how they even interact in real life, and I figure out how to handle them accordingly to that. Part of our training of becoming directors, and I went through film school and everything, and we had a lot of psychology classes. You don't think about it, but in a way, we have to kind of play psychologist to actors and collaborating with actors to be able to create, characters on the screen that can relate to multiple personalities and characters. And so someone with Mickey Rourke, I know a lot of people have a challenge working with him, especially when you treat them like robots. For me, I don't like to treat actors like robots. And what I mean by that is is I don't force them to say the line exactly the way it's written, word for word, and tell them, oh, this is how it is. It's a collaborative effort. I say film is probably the most collaborative art form out there. And at the end of the day, the actors are the ones that are the face of the product. And if an actor doesn't believe in that character or what he's doing or saying on screen, nobody's going to believe it. Even me as the director, I can't make the audience believe in it if the actors don't believe in it more than anyone. So I tend to give actors the freedom to bring their artistic, creativity to the table and form that character. So, like with someone like Mickey Rourke, he's a legendary actor that comes from that old school, training, and he's great at improv. And that's something I figured out within the first couple takes that we did, and so I was able to let him carry it. I told him, with him, he's going to come up with something good because he's, been doing this for 40 years, trained with the best, worked with the best. You give him an idea, you plant the seed in his head, and then, you make sure you both connect and on the same page, and you let him run with it. A lot of times, certain actors, if you make them say the lines the way that's written, they're going to think about it too much. They're going to want to, have cue cards to read off of it. But if you give them the freedom to make it their own and say it the way they would if they were that character, then they're going to be working with it naturally. They don't need the cue cards. They don't need to think about it too much. They just perform it naturally. So with Mickey, I figured that out, and I said, Mickey, just do it the way you see this character would do it. And he did it, and we tried it both ways. And when I gave him that freedom to do what he does best, he did it better than, any other way. So then, we knew, okay, that's how we work together. We can make, 2 days into 30 minutes on screen that looks great because, he's able to deliver that. And certain actors, they're the opposite. So everyone has their own style. And ones that I know want to follow the script, then you work with them in, how it's written and how you can, bring that to life.
Yeah, I think that's great. I mean, going back to, you really put a really good piece of advice, which was, not treating actors like robots. And I think that's kind of the start of the creative process where you want them to be creative, not just simply just
Right.
saying a line, with a deadpan voice. But I think, a lot of that's some great sound bites there too. Guys, we've probably got time for one more question before we'll let you go. As if I really want to, I guess, say, look, it's been a real pleasure and a wonderful chat. We've got the Commando coming out. We're really excited about MR9. Mogul is really excited to be working with you too. But also the John Lovett's film coming out too at Christmas. What else can we look out for your stable?
Well, I've been producing a lot of films as well, along with directing and writing. I'm also in the middle of writing another action film that hopefully, I'll get to make after MR9. But, a lot of them are either in post-production or, a development right now. But right now, all I can really focus on, truthfully, is MR9. That's my baby, and that's what I want to kind of focus on the next few months and making sure we make the best film and best product possible. So we can also continue on because it is a three-picture vision. So hopefully we can pull off the first one to be what it is and, continue on and, we can make a sequel.
From somebody that's making, let's say, a film that has a lot of similarities to the James Bond, and you talked about the inspiration with Jaws, what is your favorite James Bond film, if we narrowed it down to one film?
I would say, I grew up watching the Bond films from different eras, but right now in modern day, I would have to say Casino Royale with Daniel Craig, the new one that was made, well, it's not new anymore, but the, newer one, because I felt like that had all the elements of a James Bond film, and just the characters and the storytelling, and how the character was kind of reintroduced in that film. I felt like they did a tremendous job because it was a challenging time. At that time, Pierce Brosnan was the favorite, and everyone wanted him to come back and reprise his role. But there were a lot of mixed feelings of how Daniel Craig would turn out to carry on that torch. And I remember at that time, like, there were a lot of people that were not happy, and to be able to recapture that audience and to pull it off to where now a lot of more people argue that Daniel Craig was the best Bond and the ultimate Bond. I feel like with today's modern audiences, yeah, he definitely fits, just like how Sean Connery fit for his era, and same with Pierce Brosnan. So every era had a James Bond that I feel like just fit in, with that generation. But with Daniel Craig, it was a challenge because he looked different from the others. He was different the whole time of it coming out. It was a risk, and I think
Yeah.
they pulled it off very well because of how well that character was handled in that story, and the execution of it all was, I thought, was flawless. It was just one of the best and perfect Bond films.
That's great. And also, I mean, to go back to your point, it really was an interesting time because you had, when he was announced, that huge backlash that he was going to be
Right.
playing James Bond. And now when it's kind of, 4 or 5 films in, people just don't want to lose him. It's like,
Right. Yeah.
how do we keep him for another film?
The new one, yeah, it's yeah, the new one coming out. Well, they're saying that's going to be the best one, but we'll see. His farewell one, but you never know. It's Hollywood. You never know when the last one is. So we'll see how this one does. Maybe he'll be back.
Yeah, sure. Well, if there's no other questions in the chat, and there's a great number of people in here, I've seen a lot of familiar faces as well. Like I said, really excited at MR9. Maybe just to take us out, I'd love to just get this last question. We get a lot of actors in the Mogul community asking advice. How do they make it in Hollywood? From a director who's actually working in the industry right now. What would be your best advice for an actor to have a career, not just a one-off, show or a one-off movie, but a career in Hollywood?
That's a good question, and we get that asked a lot. I would say the number one thing that works for me when I cast is to see the attitude and personality of that person. And I'll be honest, there's been times when I've envisioned a character a certain way, and then, I meet the actor in casting, or I know somebody that has a certain personality that can pull it off, and I go into it with one vision, and maybe that person completely changes it and makes it a whole different look because of their personality and attitude on how they approach that character, to where it makes it feel real. So whoever can make a character feel real, I feel like definitely fits for that job. But at the same time, the attitude overall, on and off the screen, it's always easier to work with people that have a positive and great attitude and personality, where they make that collaborative work environment, exciting and fun. So I look at the personalities of people that can carry themselves to be able to, just be someone, fun to work with.
Yeah, and I think that echoes from Keone to Thomas to Cindy Cowan to all the guests that we've had come in here, which is there's the acting part of it, but it's also, if the shoot's 3 months overseas in another country, do I really want to be on a set for 3 months with that personality? Is that going to kind of help us get to our goal, or is it going to hinder us? So that's a great element to look at too.
Yeah, and I give props to actors. I mean, they're some of the hardest working people on set. I know sometimes it doesn't seem like it. You feel like they get all the glamour and glory and everything, and just like any other crew members, from the PAs, gaffers, and anyone, actors work just as hard, and they go through some of the the worst conditions when we make films. Like they sometimes have to uh, be in the freezing rain, practically naked, dirty, and for hours and hours. I mean, that's just an example, but the things actors go through sometimes to do what we do, it's kind of amazing. And you know it's always good to have someone that has that attitude and that professionalism to be able to handle that well and get the job done. At the end of the day, we all work as a team, but we have to also look out for each other. And sometimes, things I see actors do and not complain about and still have fun and be passionate for what they're doing amazes me. It's not easy. If it was easy, everyone would be doing it.
That's a great point. Yeah. As if it's been a real pleasure to have a chat with you. I love the advice from not talking to people, well, not treating actors like robots, to hearing about Astro, just to the advice as well with MR9. We'd love to get you back, especially we'd love to hear more about MR9 as the developments come as well. Is there anything you'd like to say before we close the interview?
Sure thing. First off, I'd like to thank you for having me on, and thank
Sure.
everyone that took the time to listen in and that's going to be listening to it. I hope, I was able to give some insight into what we're doing and some advice. So I'm always glad to help anyone that's looking to break into the industry, because, it's hard, and it's getting harder and harder than ever. And like I said, if you have the right attitude and the right work ethic and professionalism, you're bound to succeed in this business. But you have to know what makes you passionate, because everyone comes into this business either wanting to be an actor or a director or something that gets them that fame or glory or whatnot, and then they come in and they realize how hard it is and they step away from it. When I went to film school, it had probably the most dropouts out of any other kind of schooling, law schools, medical schools, and we were told it had the highest rated dropout rate. And I saw that going through school. The statistics matched the people that held on and the people that gave up. And then even in my career in the professional world, you see a lot of people can't hold on or they lose it. You just have to find what you're passionate about. Sometimes you come into it wanting to be an actor, but then you realize, you want to be a director, or you want to be an editor, or you want to be a DP. And so once you find that, and you're persistent, you have a good attitude, you're professional, you meet the right people, and you have to work with the right people. You're only as good as the people around you, and your team. And once you find that team, I think, as long as you're honest and hardworking, you should be well.
That's fantastic. That's a great soundbite there for anyone that's going to listen to the chat again or when we post it online. As if can't wait to see more of your productions. It's been a real pleasure. We'll get you back again shortly. Thanks very much for coming on. Thanks very much, everyone, for joining in the chat here today. More Mogul Live coming up later in the week, and we'll look forward to seeing you guys again soon.
Thank you, James. You have a great one. Thank you,
You
everyone.
too. Thanks, guys. See you again soon.
Bye-bye.